now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligiero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. I hope you're doing okay. I hope all your holidays were great. We're kicking off our first show for 2019, so I'll get with it. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant, located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out his website, salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. And today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. It's available where all good books are sold. Get yourself a copy right now. You could do it while you're watching or listening to this very show. All you got to do is go to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. If you're looking to get a signed copy, just drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by, and I can't even pronounce the name of this new network, but yes, we have a new channel that launched actually last week, the beginning of the new year. You can catch it. It's a Billy C channel. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some great stuff on there from the last 15 years. We're entering our 15th year doing this show. A lot of good stuff. You got to watch this. You can catch it on Roku or all the new streaming stuff. Roku, Google TV. I'm not up on all of the ones. Hulu, all that stuff. Just go to Ginico, GINIKO, USA.com for all the information. It's free. Sign up, check it out. You'll see the revisiteds we've done, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Great stuff. I was just talking about me reviewing a video we posted up there on one of the days. You know, 'cause it's 24/7, so we create these basically playlists of stuff. And I happened to see what we had at one time called a round table with myself and Dax Khan and Alex Papali, and I'm looking at it going, God, who's that young, good-looking Italian guy? Oh, my goodness, it was me, and it was only not too long ago. So, man, this whole aging thing really sucks. But anyway, on today's show, we will be getting Dax Khan to join us a little bit later, as well as Alex Papali, like I had mentioned earlier. And we will also be hooking up with my man Sal, Rocky Senicola. That'll be happening in a little bit as well. So a lot of stuff going on. We want to talk about some things some major things that took place in the boxing world last year in 2018. And, of course, all the happenings of this year. And what we should expect. And I'll kick off the show by just saying simply this. As we are in January right now of the new year, I look at the schedule, and although yesterday was a little slow in terms of boxing, beginning, next week and there, throughout the whole month, the rest of the month, we got some good stuff coming up, man. I mean, there's on ESPN Plus. Oh, that's another thing. It's funny. I was talking to Dax, and I said to Dax, I said, "Oh man, we were talking about the channel and all of this stuff," and I saw. I saw an episode. Because I'm constantly going up on the new network and checking it out, making sure everything's flowing the way it should. And I come across this episode where I'm talking about how the future of boxing is going to be, and blah blah blah. And I'll tell you what, if I do say so myself, I predicted exactly what was happening, like with the streaming services. The only thing I left out was the exact names. It was pretty cool that I hit that one on the head. Speaking about hitting on the head, my man Sal Rocky Senicola just hit on the head that he's got his camera back and he's live and well with us right now. So Happy New Year, Sal.
Happy New Year to you too, Billy C. Welcome. How you doing today, pal?
Oh, I'm doing better now that I can see you again. But at any moment, Sal's lack of technical knowledge may kick out the camera. But that's okay. We'll be ready to talk to you. It's okay. But, Sal, I was starting off to revisit some of the highlights of 2018. And although, when I had a really good chance to reflect and recharge and stuff, being out for a couple of weeks, and I know you did as well, even though you're still busy with the biz and everything, but recharging and stuff. And towards the end of the year, last year, we were talking, and there was a lot of disgruntled and grumblings. But when you sit back and take a look at it, Sal, 2018 was pretty good for boxing. I mean, we saw some really good fights, and let's start off with the one that you've been chomping at the bit, wanting to talk about. Of course, we got to give credit to Deontay Wilder. He had two good fights in 2018, Sal. He had the fight that kicked off 2018 that seems so long ago, but that fight with Ortiz. Luis Ortiz and Wilder, in my opinion, put Wilder on the map in terms of, not that he wasn't already on the map, but in terms of beating a quality opponent. And then, of course, he followed it with his last fight, which you haven't really given us a chance. We haven't given you a chance to give us your thoughts with the fantastic Tyson Fury fight. What was your thoughts on your idol, Deontay Wilder's year in boxing 2018?
Well, he did have a pretty good year. I'll tell you, he did with the Ortiz fight, definitely solidified his position as far as being considered the top heavyweight champion in the world. And, when he had the opportunity to fight Tyson Fury, that was exciting. And, at first, Bill, I wasn't even a big fan of the fight itself when it was being made. I thought Tyson Fury had a little bit more to prove to himself. He's been out for a while. But, I will tell you this, and I will humbly say, I gave Tyson Fury more respect, or I have more respect for him, or was more impressed with Tyson Fury than I was with Deontay Wilder after the fight. But with that being said, it was a very good fight. And in my opinion, and I scored that fight, Bill, and I tried to keep all emotion out of it because, I do root for Deontay Wilder. I did have Deontay Wilder winning that fight by a score of. But
of course you did.
I hear rumblings. Okay, I had him. It was a narrow win, but it was a win. I had him. I think 114 and 113, or 113 and 112, one or the other. And it was the saving grace were those two knockdowns. But it was a good fight, and maybe I scored one or two of those rounds. I really scored as an equal draw because, I when I score a fight, I take each 3-minute round as 1 minute sub rounds. And, when you look at the Hagler-Leonard fight a couple decades ago, Leonard closed the show at the end of each round. He would just put on a display and flash in a pan. And I would say, in all due respect, I think he won a lot of those rounds in the minds of the judges just by closing them real big. But when you look objectively at a fight, you have to look at maybe 3 individual 1-minute rounds and see where each person is at that point in their minute increment. And that's how I do it anyway. And when I did it like that, I did give Deontay Wilder a 1-point advantage and the victory. Now, I will tell you this. I thought that, Deontay Wilder, as you said all along, has a one-trick pony. He's a heavy puncher, and that's his only arsenal. That's his only weapon. And your words resonated with me as I watched the fight, because that's pretty much all he needed, or all that he was ready to provide. And when it came to the antics and the boxing skills and what Tyson Fury was able to show him, is just what you and I also discussed. He never fought an opponent like Tyson Fury. First of all, he never fought an opponent taller or bigger than he was. And this is something that along your pathway during your amateur career and your professional career, you should have that opportunity to be well-rounded enough to learn how to feint, to do things. And you and I discussed this as well. Whose fault is it that he was blindsided by a different face, a different style, a different body? Was it his trainer's Mark Breland for his inability to show and give him a preview of what it's going to be like to spar with a tall guy or fight a tall guy or feint to the head and go to the body or do things and actually slip a punch? Or is it because maybe Deontay Wilder really isn't or does not have the ability to follow instructions as Mark Breland might be trying to lead him to that water to drink? I don't know. But the bottom line is, the next fight that we see Deontay Wilder in is going to tell the world the difference. We're going to see if he's improved and if he learned something from this fight, because if he did, he's going to learn a little bit about feinting. He's going to learn about going to the body, because I thought that would have been a great strategy for him to do. And he's gonna learn how to slip a punch in the box a little bit.
The scoring. All right. Some of the rounds were close. There's no question about it. I scored the fight for Tyson Fury, and if it weren't for the 2 knockdowns in that particular fight, in my scorecard would not have been close. So I do give Deontay Wilder credit for making it appear to be a close fight. But those what I term close rounds, the reason why Tyson Fury won those rounds was, in my opinion, and in the opinions of most people, was that he threw more punches, and Deontay Wilder did not. And like I said on the post-fight show, it boils down to, and I know it's subjective to the judges, but it boils down to how many jabs or should I just say landed punches should equal one solid punch. And I'm not talking about a solid punch that will drop an opponent or even stun an opponent, but just a good solid punch. What's the formula? Because if a judge says, okay, well, 12 jabs will equal one solid punch, and then you look at the Tyson Fury-Deontay Wilder fight, and then you see that Wilder may have landed one harder punch in 3 minutes, and Tyson Fury landed 15 jabs in the same 3 minutes. And if that was the criteria, that was the formula, then I could agree. But that isn't. At times you do have to make a judgment for yourself who won the round. And I judge a round just exactly like you do, 1 minute increments. And I don't see anywhere where Deontay Wilder won the fight. And I also agree about, and you and I talked about this yesterday, but I also agree about where Deontay Wilder is. He's a one-trick pony because, and I'm not blaming Breland. I know we both agree that he looks like he's a really good trainer. But unfortunately, he's got a guy with freakish punching power. And Sal, you and I talked about this yesterday. Forget boxing. In any human situation, when you're at a point where you shift into auto mode, we have a tendency to go to what comes to us naturally or comfortably or whatever. And that's what happens with Deontay Wilder. He's always going to revert back to his punching power. You say, oh, he should have worked the body more. Well, that was the brilliance of Tyson Fury, tying him up, and Deontay Wilder not having the wherewithal, knowledge, whatever you want to say, to do anything about it. He let Tyson Fury dictate the fight. And just as you also know, that I reminded you about yesterday, that I said that Tyson Fury would be the first bigger opponent that Wilder has ever faced. And Sal, you agreed. I mean, the guy was clearly, and I'm talking about Wilder, was clearly uncomfortable fighting a taller guy.
Yes, he definitely looked looked uncomfortable, looked a little awkward, looked like a little. I haven't used that word in a long time. Stymied. He was like frozen. Like how do I assess this? What am I going to do next? And do I put on my offense? Do I put on defense? Do I just let him fly? I don't know. I think and like I said, Bill, I know it'll never happen, but I wish I could train Deontay Wilder. I swear to God, I wish I could train and have a couple hours in the gym with him and just show him exactly what I think he could do. Because, like I said, his next fight out, whether it's going to be against Tyson Fury or a taller opponent or somebody, is going to tell a lot. As I think Tyson Fury's will. Because, I did mention that also yesterday. I think that's the hardest Tyson Fury has ever been hit in his life. And beyond any expectations, I saw that big 6 foot, how tall is he? 10? 6'7", 6'8" guy climb up, get up. Even though it was a little long count, but he did get up.
It wasn't a long count.
It was a little long count.
Yeah, why? Because the referee, the referee was like 1. 3. Let's see, what am I doing tomorrow for after lunch? 2. Wait, I lost my count. Let me start over.
4.
1. Yeah. No, you know what? I give credit to the referee.
I give credit.
Because, and we've talked about this a lot of times. A referee, again, human nature. A referee, when a fighter, and go back, if anybody doesn't believe me, go back and watch tapes of any referee count. And what most of them do, they're leaning over the fight. Well, a lot of them just wave it off nowadays. But, most of the referees will start counting, and they'll be like, 1, 2, and then the fighter starts to get up, and as the fighter's rising, their adrenaline's going too, and they start 4, 5, 6. It's like they're trying to beat the count to 10 before the fighter gets up. And what I give credit for in the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight was that he maintained the same speed at which he was counting. If you think now, remember something. Alex Papali points this out all the time. It's not a 10-second count. It's called a 10 count. So as long as you maintain the same speed at which you're counting, I don't have a problem. But it was a good fight. Just like we talked about yesterday, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. There's a lot of rumors that he's going to fight his mandatory, which is Dominic Breazeale, next. And I think that will hurt him, Sal, just like I told you yesterday. And the reason is because you would think that after rewatching the fight and, seeing what he did wrong or what he didn't do or what he could have done, you'd want to see him back in that position to see if he actually learned something from that fight. And what's going to happen is that they're going to put him in with another fight that's going to be easy for him, and he's going to go out and shoot for the knockout, and then he's going to be in the same boat, relying on his knockout skill. And by the way, before you comment on that, I'd really like your comment on his excuses about the hurt arm. I lost a lot. He could have just let it go, that he got a gift draw, in my opinion. But no, he had to come out and try to make a claim that his arm was injured. And if that were the case, then why did he keep throwing it? He didn't favor that right hand at all in that fight. That was his most used arm. So what was your thoughts about him crying about an injury?
Well, and that you never like to really see. I mean, it's like, okay, you put it out there, you say it, and everyone knows, and that's fine. Hey, you could say it in a subtle way, but drop it, let it go. Say, my arm, I hurt it training. We kept it quiet, and I don't think it really came into be a factor, but, who knows?
I disagree. He shouldn't have said anything about it.
No, exactly. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Had he won, you probably wouldn't have heard anything about it.
Exactly. And let me tell you something. How do you complain about a hurt right when you almost killed the guy in the 12th round with it? I mean, it didn't make sense. To me, it made him look stupid, to be honest with you.
Well, I'll tell you, like you said, I don't think he is the most eloquent or most composed fighter
Wow.
being interviewed.
Wow, nothing gets by you, huh, Sal?
Hey, I'm being Hey, and I'm being objective this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
Got my Billy C. mugs.
A little bit. You are being a little bit.
But listen. Here's the other thing I kind of touched on a little bit when we discussed this yesterday. Bill, many times we'll see a fighter who appears to be on the same level that we've always seen that fighter perform at. And then maybe he has a war or maybe something else, and you'll hear all of a sudden, something's off. He's not the same. Well, like I said and hinted earlier, let's see what happens with Tyson Fury's next performance. Like I said, I don't think he's ever been struck with a punch quite as heavy-handed as Deontay Wilder. And, I'm curious to see if those punches that he absorbed and took, and I can't believe he still got up from, had any impact or is going to interfere with his cognizance ability and just see how he is. Is he a different fighter? Is he the same fighter? Is he a more aggressive fighter? We don't know. But like I said, sometimes it just takes one fight to turn a fighter and you see a little subtle difference. Like I said, I think that the fight coming between these two guys again, I don't think we're going to see anything that much different from a Tyson Fury that he could show us. The only expectation on my end will be to see if Deontay Wilder did go to school and learn something about the style he was going to face and he's going to face again, and about how he can offset and come in and be ready for that kind of fight again.
I think when and if they fight again, I think that we're going to pick up with round 13. I think that Deontay Wilder in that knockdown in the 12th is actually going to be, in my opinion, a bad thing for Deontay Wilder, and the reason is because of the severity of that punch and how Tyson Fury went down and appeared, never to be able to get up, let alone beat the count. I think that Deontay Wilder's game plan is to try to end the fight quicker, not to let Tyson Fury dictate the pace of the fight and the style of the fight, which is what Tyson Fury does. Tyson Fury has done that throughout his career. And the other thing is I think that Tyson Fury will be in better shape. He was in fantastic shape, but considering he lost about 100 pounds since his return to the ring, I think the guy is going to be in better shape. I don't see Deontay Wilder wanting to fight him and right away. I mean, in a perfect world, that fight should be their next fight, but it won't be. It won't be, and it's a shame. And we're going to see the same ducking game between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, because that's still the fight that we need to see.
Thank you. And that's exactly what I was saying to myself while I was watching the Tyson Fury-Deontay Wilder fight. I said, here we go. And your words, again, resonated with me as I was watching that fight. And I said, boy, wouldn't it be something if Tyson Fury does win this fight, and there goes those millions and millions of dollars that we calculated that Deontay Wilder could have received if he started with that $15 million cut to go fight Anthony Joshua the first time with the rematch clause. And like I said, we're going to always look at that situation, because up until whatever day they finally do step in the ring, any fight they take with any other opponent is one fight away for this fight never to happen, and it may never happen.
No, and it's sad. Another thing, I never heard what the final money was that they made. That whole money situation has been kept quiet. I mean, anyway, real quickly before we take a break and get Dax on for a little bit, a couple of good fights coming up this month, Sal. Beginning in 2 weeks, Bryant Jennings against Oscar Rivas in the heavyweight division. Big fight, really, in my opinion. Also, the Manny Pacquiao, same weekend, Manny Pacquiao, January 19th, fighting against Adrian Broner, which I think is a It's a tough fight for Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao's 40 years old. Adrian Broner, I don't think he's 30 yet. Actually, I have his box rec right in front of me here, and he's 29 years old. So he's almost given up 10 years. Manny Pacquiao. So that's not an easy fight. And Broner apparently has rededicated himself to the sport. Then Badu Jack against Marcus Brown. That's another good fight. Jamie Mugaya, the junior middleweight titleist, who should be a light heavyweight. He's so big. He's taken on Takashi Inoue, which is a good matchup. Also, in a heavyweight division at the end of January, Adam Koznacki is taking on Gerald Washington. I like this fight, Sal, because it's two young heavyweights fighting each other, which I think is important. I think you go back to Deontay Wilder's problems that we see with him, and the fact that his lack of facing good quality opposition early on is what's coming into focus today. That's why he struggles against that better level fighter. And then Keith Thurman, remember that name?
Whoa! Wait! Did you let me hear you say that again?
Yeah.
It sounds familiar. What name did you mention?
Keith Thurman. He's returning to the ring, and he's fighting Josito Lopez.
Is that Uma Thurman's brother?
Yeah, that is. That's about as close to the ring as he's gotten lately. But Keith Thurman. Let me just look real quick. His last fight was against, let's see, I have it right here, Danny Garcia in March of 2017. So really, he's going to be coming off of, pretty close to a 2-year layoff by the time he gets into the ring at the end of this month against Josito Lopez. Very disheartening, in my opinion, for this guy, Sal.
Well, like I said, you and I have talked about Keith Thurman many, many times, and he's got all the ability, he's got all the talent, but does he have the heart, the desire, and the wanting of this, which is the desire to put it all on the line, to step in the ring, to face the fire? I mean, we say that it's a different form of boxing for him today. He's not engaging as much as he used to, and things like that. He's slipping punches. They're boxing. Like I said, I can't criticize a fighter for trying to evolve or learn and slip a punch here and there, but versus just running away. But he's giving us different shades of what his potential, what his ability is. Because when Keith Thurman's on, I'll tell you what, I'm a Keith Thurman fan. He does know how to fight. He does know how to box. But when he's out of the ring for 2 or 3 years for a hurt arm or this and that, and how serious is he about this career? Is he thinking about other things? Is he just waiting for the right opponent, right time? You got to keep active. You want to stay in the game of boxing. You fight like you train like you fight, and you put it out there. And you're a flash in a pan anyway. You're a star that's going to burn bright for as long as you can, and then you say goodbye. But when you stretch it out and you're there for a couple of years, and you're not engaging in the top opponents in your division, and you're looking like you're slipping this guy, that guy, you don't want to fight that guy, you're looking here, then you're going to have a few spots and a few credits that will not be given to you when all is said and done.
Personally, I think he lost his last 2 fights. I think Sean Porter beat him, even though he got a unanimous decision win. And then his last fight against Danny Garcia, it was a split decision win. But and I didn't think that Garcia would do as well, and I thought he lost both of those. So. I've lost a lot of respect for Keith Thurman. There's no question about that. But hey, listen, Sal, hang tight. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have Dax Khan on. We'll get his thoughts, and then you'll be able to don't ruin your connection, Sal.
I'm not going to do nothing. And, forget about it. I'm staying right here.
I will get back to you after Dax and Alex, so don't go anywhere.
That's what my last girlfriend said. Thank you.
Yeah, and you're still waiting. That was, 35 years ago.
But
anyway, listen, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, Dax Khan joins us. Don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belt won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. Don't forget about our new 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week television channel. You can get it on all your streaming devices. We got it available through Roku and Hulu and all those other things, Google Play, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just visit Giniko, Giniko, USA.com. Create an account. You'll see us down in the with all the logos of the other television shows on that network. Sign up. It's for free. And check it out. You'll love it. Joining us right now, haven't seen or heard from this guy in over a year. Oh, well, at least by definition. Dax Khan. What's up, Dax?
Hey, happy 2019.
I know. It's I can't believe how time is flying. You know, you were in my mind recently, especially with the new TV, because you know, I'm uploading a lot of stuff that we've done over the years, and one of the ones I stumbled across was one of the original roundtable discussions. You and myself and Alex were there. And you know what? I saw something, Dax, in you that I don't think... Well, I saw something in me. I look a hell of a lot younger a couple of years ago, that's for sure. But I saw something in you that I never thought... You actually look nervous in front of the camera. Man, have things changed, huh?
Bill, I don't want to put your business out there, but it was early in the morning. You didn't brush your teeth. You were letting out some little stink air underneath the couch cushions.
You're sitting there looking at the camera, looking a little nervous. I'm like, oh God, he's nothing like that anymore. That's for sure.
I remember the time we did the one with Bob Benoit, and Bob still hasn't left Canada since.
That was another one. Hey, that one's up on there too. No, I was talking about one before that, but anyway. 2018, we had some good fights. We were, like I was saying to Sal a little earlier, we seemed to, towards the end of the year, a lot of us, including myself, were complaining about certain things, maybe more the way the business side was going. But, after reflecting, recharging for several weeks here between live shows, it was a good year. And when you kick off just in the heavyweight division to see Wilder take on two big fights in Ortiz and Tyson Fury, and then over on the other side you had Anthony Joshua unifying the title against Joseph Parker, and then another fight with a top-ranked contender in Alexander Povetkin. What's your thoughts?
Well, 2019, now that it's here, we have high expectations because of last year. In my opinion, some of the most significant moments of last year is one thing is 2018 kind of brought boxing back to that whole global spectrum. We had a new superstar emerge in Alexander Usyk, who won that World Boxing Super Series, and he pretty much unanimously claimed the Fighter of the Year, whether or not it was ESPN, CBS Sports, Sports Illustrated, Ring Magazine. I think we all here had him as 2018 Fighter of the Year. Vasyl Lomachenko and Terrence Crawford are still battling back and forth. Who's recognized as the pound-for-pound king. Canelo, he goes for a third division title, regardless of what you think of the opponents. And we kind of got ourselves a cult, kind of a cult hero. And obviously, what a lot of people are calling him is the most feared man in boxing. And he's not a heavyweight, he's not a light heavyweight, and he's not even a welterweight. And that's the monster, Noyo Inoue. He delivers sensational knockouts. He's 25 years old, 17-0 with 15 stoppages. He has wins over, world champions, Tugachi, Adrian Hernandez, Omar Narvaez, Koei Kuno, Jamie McDonald, Juan Carlos Payano. And they weren't just belt holders. They were all established champions with quite a few defenses underneath them. I know that people say, well, Lomachenko, this is a guy here who is sensational in a different way. But, you got a kid like Inoue who isn't really seen much over here in this country, due to network conflictions. But, he's had titles in 3 weight classes already. And then the World Boxing Super Series, Bill, that has really cleaned up 2 divisions. The cruiserweight division, with Usyk coming out ahead. And then, of course, with Callum Smith becoming the king of the 168-pound division. And not only that is those guys have also claimed the ring title. And now we have a second season, and we're going to have us, again, we're going to have ourselves 2 undisputed champions in 2 separate divisions, and that's really cleaning up the sport. And most of all, what we've seen a change of is in the business side, as you mentioned all the time. Eddie Hearn and Sauerland Promotions, in my opinion, have genuinely separated themselves from the rest of the pack throughout the whole sport, and they have pretty much truly, defined themselves as the promoters in boxing. Yeah, especially with the Dazan Network and the World Boxing Super Series.
There's no question about Hearn. I just, you make a great point about Usyk in the cruiserweight division, and you've said, as a matter of fact, I believe it was the last show that we did live. You even said it. I was making a comment about the cruiserweight division, like I always do, and I basically generalized, saying that the cruiserweight division is not as popular as it should be. And then you corrected me and said, well, that's only here in the United States, which you're 100% correct. Now we get a guy like Usyk, who seemingly is the main man of the cruiserweight division. And fortunately for us, we have a lot of other cruiserweights that are willing to get in the ring with this guy to try to, take his title away of being number one. But the other side of it is, and a question I have for you, is Usyk, or as it turned out, did Usyk, his success as a cruiserweight, was it too good for his own good? Because now people are pushing the guy to move to heavyweight. And not that I don't think he could beat some of the heavyweights out there, but it defeats the purpose of what I had hoped would be the end result in the cruiserweight division.
Well, unfortunately, with the cruiserweight division, is unless we have things such as the World Boxing Super Series, you're not going to get a lot of viewers. It's only popular in certain countries, that I continue to say, and you just, reaffirmed. So Alexander Usyk right now, people just want to really see if he can really become what's expected of him. And because people haven't really seen him as much, and they hear more about this guy, and they've seen a lot of clips of him, it kind of becomes like, can this guy really be that good? Now, if he was here in the United States, let's say, and he stationed himself here like a Vasyl Lomachenko, there'd be no question on exactly how good Alexander Usyk is, and people would be tuning in not to see what he can do next, just to see how dominant he is next time.
Well, I mean, again, don't you think he should stay in the cruiserweight division?
But if he stays in the cruiserweight division, Bill, again, that's my point, because there's not a lot of competition. There's not a lot of attention for it, in this country, or even in, a lot of other countries outside of, certain European countries. Alexander Usyk, more or less, he's kind of going to become that guy that, could have, should have, would have. He was that guy that, he won this tournament, but really we don't know how good he is, because who did he really fight? And because these fans don't really know how good those other cruiserweights are. So he's in that no-win situation. Remember, I always talk about that article I wrote years ago when Vladimir Klitschko was first beginning his reign as the undisputed heavyweight champion. Is he too good for his own good? Which is more or less what you're trying to say. And I believe Alexander Usyk, yes, he's too good for his own good. Vasyl Lomachenko, too good for his own good. Once you get to that certain level of skill and you become so dominant that people actually just really start believing that you cannot be that good.
Well, the problem I have is that a fighter like Usyk, who's dominating a division, and when it's all said and done, it goes down as, from a historical perspective, as a guy who dominated a division in his era. And that's all you can expect from a fighter during their active career, is to face everyone that's available at that time in their division. We can't criticize fighters who happen to come along and if the division was weak, etc. My problem, Dax, is if he moves up to heavyweight, which, and I understand all your point, and he loses, there are going to be some unknowledgeable fans out there that are going to say, see, he wasn't that good. And they're not going to put it in perspective about what he was trying to do. I've said this all along, and I also promised I'm not going to mention his name, so I won't. But the truth is that these kinds of fighters that claim that they're the best, when they don't fight the best that are available at that time, they're not as good as they think. I don't know. It's a catch-22, and I know financially he'll make out better moving to heavyweight, but I don't know, man.
No matter what, he's going to do well, because Alexander Usyk is signed with the man that we were just speaking about, Eddie Hearn.
Right. I mean, he'll financially.
No matter what, Eddie Hearn is going to get him that exposure. Eddie Hearn pretty much has taken over everything, and we see, when you look at that stable, Bill, and I hate, I don't want to just focus on Eddie Hearn, but you look at that stable and you look at how many U.S. fighters have just jumped over to him. Off the top of my head, if I was going to think Eddie Hearn fighters right now, I'd say Ryan Burnett, Anthony Joshua, Ant Corolla, Charlie Edwards, Maurice Hooker, Callum Smith, Usyk, Cal Yaffe, Amanda Serrano, Demetrius Andre, Daniel Jacobs, Daniel Roman, Luke Campbell, Connor Ben, Dillian White, Tevin Farmer, Arthur Beterbiev, Josh Kelly. The list goes on. All the top names are with him, and he just seems to be getting more and more names as time goes on, because everybody is seeing exactly what he's doing. Eddie Hearn is not letting these guys sit stale, and if people in the United States don't want to do business, Eddie Hearn is going to give you fights throughout the whole world, because Eddie Hearn, truly believes that, it's a global sport, which is the beauty about boxing. And Eddie Hearn, now that he's in the United States, little by little, these fighters start seeing that, Eddie Hearn can do this for me that he's done for everybody else. And, there's not going to be hoops to jump through. I don't have to worry about when I'm going to fight. I don't have to worry about who I'm going to fight. All I know is that I'm going to fight. I'm going to stay active. I'm going to make my paycheck. And as long as I'm in there and I'm training and I'm winning, Eddie Hearn is going to get me to exactly where I want to be.
The other thing about Eddie Hearn that I really like and respect is the fact that his fighters fight, and I'm not just talking about stay busy type fights. He fights. He puts his fighters in with real fights. A couple weeks ago, we saw the Charlo brothers. Both of them struggled. And it's the same thing that I constantly say about Wilder. The blueprint today with promoters and management, etc., is to protect their fighter, protect the O, and then the networks fall into play. We got an undefeated fighter. Oh, we're fighting for a world title. And they focus on that one side, and then the sacrificial lamb gets brought in. They destroy that opponent, and they're pounding their chest saying they're the best. But what we saw with the lack of, which we've been talking about now for 15 years, the lack of the climbing the ladder, fighting the guy above you, beating him, and moving up, not only shows us, the quality of that specific fighter, but it allows that fighter to get better by facing better opponents. We saw Wilder struggle, but he came out and won against Ortiz. We saw a fight that many of us believe he lost to Tyson Fury, fighting the same way, all because he's never learned how to really fight somebody that can fight. The same thing happened with the Charlo brothers, Dax. These guys were coddled. Either if they fought a guy with a name, it was at the end of his career, whatever. They get in fights that they both should have cruised. One struggles, the other loses. I mean, when is the fan base going to accept or understand that there's nothing wrong with a loss on a record? As a matter of fact, most quality fighters improve because they learn something from that. Is it ever going to change? At least, or should I say change, or should I say go back to the way it was? Well, what's your thoughts?
Well, first, a lot of that blame goes on to the sanctioning bodies. They seem to allow, or they seem to rank guys based on wins and not quality of wins, which is how it should be. You mentioned Deontay Wilder, and you mentioned the Charlo brothers. The Charlo brothers have some quality wins, but Deontay Wilder has some quality wins, but they have not done exactly what you said in terms of, slowly raising their level of competition, fighting the journeyman, which is how you really build fighters into complete fighters, putting them in there against these experienced journeymen who are going to present them with things that they've never seen before and test them. There are very few guys out there like an Alexander Usyk, like a Vasyl Lomachenko, like a Naoya Inoue, who are capable of going out and winning world titles after 5, 6, 7, or 10 fights, and in multiple divisions. But because these fans don't know who these opponents are, then all of a sudden, they don't have respect for these fighters. Or with Vasyl Lomachenko, there's always an excuse. There's a reason on, why his opponent didn't do well that night. And they all of a sudden become overrated. Or we've had this conversation before about Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, there's actually people out there, despite how good he is, will say, who has he fought? Why? Because they don't know. You hit the key word there, uneducated fans. They don't know who a lot of his opponents were, or a lot of who his opponents are, and they base a lot of his opponents off the fact that they had a few losses, so they obviously can't be that good. Me and you had this conversation yesterday, day before yesterday, about somebody saying, well, if a certain fighter has 19 losses, they can't be the greatest of all time. But again, when you're looking at that fighter, sometimes that fighter was fighting 20, 21 times a year. Sometimes that fighter was fighting twice a week. So, when you're traveling from New York to California, you're fighting New York on a Saturday, you're fighting in California on a Sunday, then you're fighting in Florida on Wednesday. You know what? You're going to get yourself a loss because you're not going to be able to recover. You're not going to be able to recuperate. It's going to happen. It doesn't take away from you the quality of the fighter. What it does is it just means that, too much too soon, overwhelmed. You had no breaks in between. You mentioned Keith Thurman before. There's a guy who's had a long layoff. He might benefit greatly from that. So, the fans, that it's very uneducated, and because boxing is a business, these sanctioning bodies and the networks now are going to capitalize on the fact that the fans don't really care about the quality of what's going on behind there. They care about the O, so let's just promote the O, and that makes our job easier. It's cheaper to promote an O, and whatever happens after that, we don't care, because there's always going to be another guy coming up that has an O we can just jump onto and follow that same method, if that makes sense.
Yeah, another thing, I know people might not know, but Dax and I were talking about Sugar Ray Robinson with what he just mentioned. And the other thing, keep in mind, on those trips, New York to California, they weren't hopping in a plane and being there, where their bodies weren't taking a beating. A lot of times they were doing road trips from city to city to city, from one end of the country to the other, and that beats the hell out of you too. I mean, I know just traveling to the city from where I am now down to into New York City, the drive back and forth will beat you up, so that takes a toll on you as well. A couple of good fights coming up. To kick off the new year, the Mungaya fight against Takashi Inoue. I like that one. I do. I'm a big fan of Josito Lopez. This is the kind of fighter that I love. A guy that fight who? Wait, okay, and he's fighting Keith Thurman. The Adam Kauznaki and Gerald Washington fight I like, but I can't help but be drawn to the Pacquiao-Adrian Broner fight, Dax. I think this is a tough fight. I mean, we could say what we want about Adrian Broner, but number one, and quite frankly, his decline, so to speak, was his punch output. He's still good defensively. He still has a solid chin, and he still has some pop. And Manny Pacquiao is 40 years old. We all know what his hopes are should he get by Broner, but this is not a layup fight. I know we'll have more time to talk about it, but what's your thoughts as of today on the Pacquiao-Broner fight?
No, Adrian Broner is certainly not a layup fight for anybody. Adrian Broner is his own worst enemy, when it comes to his career. Manny Pacquiao, that's a great point. He's 41 years old now. And you made the other great point where Adrian Broner has that low punch output. Can Manny Pacquiao continuously throw punches, and is he able to throw those punches while avoiding a counter punch from Adrian Broner? Which, could very much end up very much how the Pacquiao and Marquez fight did. When Pacquiao was ahead, he seemed to be boxing very well. He got caught with that one counterpunch, and then he ended up face down, unconscious on the ground. And Adrian Broner is a heavier hitter than Juan Manuel Marquez was. But Manny Pacquiao, this is maybe his last hurrah. Why he's continuously doing this, I don't know. He should retire from the sport after this fight, at minimum. Adrian Broner, this fight too is going to tell a big story on him, even if he wins, depending on how well he does. Adrian Broner may have to rethink his career also. But if I was going to pick a winner on this, due to the punch output, I'd have to say Manny Pacquiao, but I would not be surprised if it did end up, one of those one-punch knockouts and Manny ends up on his face.
Yeah, Broner's got hand speed. Broner's got accuracy. I think the knock on Broner will be that he will try to counterpunch Manny, which is, something that he's got to be patient with and hope that he lands that perfect counterpunch. And if Manny is in good shape, even though he's 40 years old, and he can, deliver punches from different angles the way he used to, if he can just get some of that back, it ought to be interesting. But it's not a layup fight. It's a tough fight. And, I don't know. I haven't even looked at the odds, but I would think Adrian Broner, despite Manny Pacquiao's success in his career, he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He'll finish higher than other fighters that were parallel with him on my all-time great list, regardless of what happens. But I would think Broner would be the favorite in this fight, Dax.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that, if you were going to lay some money down, I'd probably lay money down on Adrian Broner for this fight. But, Adrian Broner, again, if he's not active, though, I can see him losing on points as long as Manny Pacquiao is a little bit conscious. Adrian Broner, he seems to freeze up when guys throw a lot of punches at him. He has such a great chin. That's what allows him, to not be knocked out. And Adrian Broner has no problems with getting a little bit of rough inside, with the elbow. He has no problems with, hitting the hip and that. And Manny Pacquiao, even at his best, was a guy that never liked to, to be roughed up. He never liked to see his own blood. Now at 41 years old, when at the tail end of your career, something like that happens, I can actually see Manny Pacquiao falling apart and Adrian Broner going into the center of the ring and creating some sort of sensational knockout rather than just a counterpunch that catches Manny Pacquiao. So, it's how do you say it? The the one I always use when, you want to use that cop out and say, there's, you really can't decide officially, but the fight is Adrian Broner's to lose, if that makes sense.
So one last thing I wanted to ask you before we let you go. The new television deal that we have with Gyneco USA, I know you've had a chance to look at some of the stuff on there. I mean, it's pretty interesting, right? I mean, I didn't realize, to be honest with you, I know we've been doing this for a long, long time, but I didn't realize how much content that I actually had that now we get a chance to re-see, like not just the show stuff, the events and all of that. I was actually watching the Hall of Fame event we did back in 2011. Can you believe how much time has flown by? But what's your initial thoughts on the new network?
I like the network, especially, you go around and you search, you find old movies like I was telling you, there's nature shows, there's a little bit of everything on there. And what I like is the fact that it's available all the time. It's almost like a continuous DVR where you can just pick and choose what you want. There's that live feed that's always playing, but then when you go down the list of the channel or a show, you're able to pick and choose whatever you want to see from the past, very much like ours is. So it's great, and that's that's the future, Bill. That's 2019. To expect. I know we spoke about that yesterday, saying what to expect in 2019. In 2019, what I expect are the streaming wars for boxing. I expect the DAZN and ESPN Plus, to go, have streaming wars, very much like HBO and Showtime used to. Except, these guys here are just going to do on another level because they have a wider audience than HBO and Showtime ever did, due to the fact that it's worldwide and it's that streaming. So, the sport is, it's going through some serious changes. The streaming is exciting. It's even more exciting that we're available on this streaming network, and that's the future of boxing, and that's what 2019 is going to be. And at the end of 2019, whoever the most successful promoter is and has the most fighters out there on these streaming networks, that's going to be the promoter that ushers in 2020 on top of the sport, whether or not it's Top Rank with ESPN Plus or whether or not it's Matchroom with DAZN.
Yeah, and like I said, and I said in the beginning of the show, I stumbled across a show where I was saying all the thing about the streaming. It was actually kind of funny, but it is the way it is, and I said at one point that I did not think that boxing was going to be able to copy what Dana White did with the UFC, but in a sense, with the way that the definition of how you're going to be able to watch, it kind of is. We don't have a league of boxing, but what we do have now is an alliance with a promoter. And what goes along with your alliance with a promoter is your favorite fighters fighting under that promotional banner. And now you'll have to subscribe to whatever their streaming service is. Whether it's DAZN or ESPN Plus or any of the others that are popping up. I mean, it is what it is. So so in a sense, your favorite fighters are gonna dictate who your promoter is versus, and add that with who your streaming company will be, who you're gonna subscribe to, et cetera, et cetera. So it is exciting, and there's really no limit.
We're already seeing that, with the two networks and these smaller promoters that aren't quite as big as a Top Rank or a Matchroom are aligning with one of these streaming networks or the other. And if you notice with DAZN, right after Canelo signed that agreement with them, now all of a sudden we're seeing a lot more of Golden Boy promotion fighters on that DAZN card. For the Jaime Muniga fight, for example, that's going to be on DAZN. We have that DAZN card in coming next week with the Demetrius Andrade fight, and underneath there are several Golden Boy fighters that are on there, and not only is it top name, well-known fighters, but it's also getting out their prospects, which that, Bill, in my opinion, is even a bigger asset to the sport, because now we're getting to see these prospects worldwide, and the whole world is getting to see these prospects, what they are, instead of just hearing about them and seeing showcase fights. Everybody, the whole world is putting them under a scope, and the fact that the whole world has them under a scope, in my opinion, that might actually add a little bit of pressure, whether or not it's to the sanctioning bodies or whether or not it's to the promoters, to kind of increase the level of competition for these guys instead of giving them so many showcase fights. Because once people start getting bored and they stop subscribing, then business goes bad, and then you got to come up with a new game plan. So 2019 is definitely going to be the year to watch, because boxing is really going to just totally make a change, and it's going to really tell us the future of what direction the sport's going to go in.
No doubt. Dax, appreciate your time. Look forward to you next week, my man.
All right, everybody, enjoy your week.
That was Dax Khan. You can check him out up on our website, www.billycboxing.com. I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, we're scheduled to have Alex Papali join us. Don't go nowheres.
Billy C will be right back.
Have osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength topical pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee, or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C, the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C, damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. Don't forget about checking out the new 24/7 TV channel. Yeah, that's right, man. The Billy C Boxing Network. Check it out. All the information can be found at Ginico, GINIKO USA.com. Sign up for free right now. Watch us on Roku, Hulu, all the other ones too. But anyway, joining us right now, all the way from the big city of Connecticut. Oh, is there a big city of Connecticut? Or, the state. And hopefully he can hear us, but is my man Alex Papali. What's up, Alex? No, Alex, you can't hear us, can you? Alex is having some technical difficulties, apparently, so hopefully he can get those resolved. But he is waiting. But he cannot hear us, apparently. Can he hear us now is the question, but I'm not sure. Are you there, Alex? No, he's not. He's not there. He's there. We see him. We see you, Alex, but we can't hear you, and you can't hear us. So, in any event, I will wait until he can catch us. If not, I want to carry on with a situation. Okay, what? You can hear us now. Okay, now we can hear you because he threw the yiddy to the side. So hey, it's you and I can talk off air, but it's a setup that you're gonna have to make with which one looks at. But nonetheless, we got you. Everything. How was your New Year? How was your New Year, Alex?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
It was good. Have you had a chance to check out the new TV network?
I did, and I do like it. It's very interesting to see the way there's so many different channels of different things for people to watch, and it's pretty cool.
Well, I know you. The one that caught your eye as soon as you're scrolling down is the Cannabis Network.
I didn't see that.
That's right above us. It was right above us. I was like, oh, and of course I checked it out, and there was some movies and stuff. It's pretty cool, and like there's an old time movie channel also, like Dax was talking about. But it's good stuff. But I know I got a obviously I'm doing all the programming for it, but I came across, and I was telling Dax, the very first roundtable, the prototype roundtable that we did, and I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, oh, that's Alex Papali, it is Dax Con. Who's that good-looking Italian man? I was like, oh my God, man, have I aged in the last 4 or 5 years? It's like I didn't even look like me, but some really good stuff, man. Some stuff I forgot I even had. That all the events that you and I did, we have on film that are all up there. So some good stuff there. But
wow, even all those like MMA fights.
I didn't put those up because yet I was considering it. The quality of the sound wasn't good. I also did an amateur event in Saratoga once that the sound was not good, and I just don't think it'll be worthy of putting on. I'm trying to keep people watching and listening versus saying I'm not watching this. But anyway, before we. The last thing that we were talking about, Dax and myself, was the streaming thing, and he made some great points about the audience that it can reach, et cetera, and in his mind that he thinks that it's going to be better. I agree initially, but I think what's going to happen from just a technical point is I think what's taken place is the term streaming is something that the older people, like myself and Sal is much older than me, so guys like him, we look at it as something different. But a lot of the younger people just look at it as that's the way it is. I mean, what's the difference between streaming or whatever? I just want to watch my show. How do I get it, etc. My point is, do you think that over time, once everybody, drinks the Kool-Aid, and I've subscribed myself to the streaming services that, we all know about, we don't have to mention, but we know who they are. Do you think over time that the fan base will eventually be the same as it always was? Do you think that it truly will get out to people that, let's say, have never watched boxing? I find it hard to believe that the availability, worldwide availability, is much better, like Dax says. But I have a hard time believing that somebody that never was into it would all of a sudden be into it because now they can watch it on their handheld. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think it's possible. I think the way people are going to become fans of boxing is the same way they always have, in that they see a fighter or they hear about a fighter who captures their imagination. And then once that happens, then they're going to seek out to watch them fight wherever it is, whether it's on an app or whether it's on network TV or whatever. I went to dinner last night with a very good friend and his mother-in-law, and we did start talking about boxing, and she remarked about how she can remember watching the Gillette Friday night fights. And I think that, yes, the boxing landscape, what it means to be a boxing fan is very different than that now. I think the wonderful thing about that back then was that there was only 3 networks. So when you have primetime coverage of boxing on a weeknight or on a Friday night, a weekend night, then it does up the credibility of the sport, to the mainstream. Like, it puts it on the same par as basketball, baseball, and football. We don't have that anymore. Not exactly. Now there still is boxing on network TV. I mean, I saw the ad last night for the upcoming PBC show during the Dallas game. So, there's probably more boxing now on TV than there's ever been. The thing is that you're right. There's lots of different niches. There's lots of different options on how to watch it. So, yeah, people like us who grew up, with ABC, CBS, and NBC, and then, pay-per-view model and, the pay channels, that's very different because now there's lots more avenues. But I don't think it's worse. I think it just, it's the media is very different. And becoming a star now doesn't necessarily, it's not the same path as it used to be. You could become a star just from having a YouTube channel. Like you, Billy C.
That's funny. But, that... Yeah, or just screaming that you want to, kill. I'm gonna kill somebody in the ring.
That's right. But the more outrageous you are, But see, that's the thing, is that I think that you can. It depends what kind of star you want to be. If you want to be a flash in the pan, yeah, you just post, a Drake in my feelings video. But if you want to have some sort of longevity, then I think you do what you do, where you establish a rapport with fans and have something that they can depend on of what they're going to get from you and stuff like that. And I think that avenue is still available, and it's available on multiple platforms now. It is weird to think that it's hard to keep up, because I love Bryant Jennings. I haven't taken the plunge to buy ESPN Plus. But I guess I have to if I want to see Bryant Jennings. So that part is a little annoying, because it does seem like if you love boxing and you want to see everybody, you've got to buy a lot of apps.
Exactly.
Which is that's a little bit of a pain in the ass. But I think if you're a fan of baseball, that's probably been the reality of what it's like being a fan for a while. That, if you like one certain team, well, you got to buy that network.
Right. Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Johnston Brown. He sent us a super chat, and we appreciate it. He wants to wish everyone involved with the Billy C Show Happy New Year, and same to you, Johnston. He does a great job for us over the other side of the pond, and he plans on spending a lot more time ringside this year. He also keeps us up to date with some great articles up on the website, BillyCBoxing.com. So appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I have an email from Johnston that I will read in a little bit. But the bottom line, Alex, is simply this. Back in the day, and you mentioned the Gillette fight nights and stuff like that. Back then, fights, and I've said this many times, there was so much boxing on television that it was literally 5 days a week. And they had their own television guide just to keep fans up to date on who was fighting. Now, that came at a time when there were 3 channels that you could watch, not an infinite amount like we have today. So I think what the streaming has done is it has brought worldwide attention. In other words, you could watch a fighter from any part of the world now, wherever you are, and that wasn't the case during our time as we were younger and getting in. That definitely wasn't the case. But the pay-per-view model is still alive and well because you got to pay extra to see DAZN or ESPN Plus. So you're tacking that on, and then occasionally if there's a pay-per-view like Manny Pacquiao's fight coming up, you still got to have a cable network. A cable service or a satellite service that you're tied into, so you're paying for that. The occasional Showtime fight now, even though they are online, you're still paying for that. So I mean, the bottom line is we're paying a hell of a lot more money to stay up to date on boxing. Is it good? Is it bad? Listen, I watched the show when I said, several years ago, that the future will bring us exactly where we are, where you pay X amount of money and you'll get to see whatever you want, whether it's baseball, football, boxing, or whatever. And it's clearly going in that direction. So, I think it's good. I think it's good for the sport. I just think, in a relatively short period of time, we're not going to refer to any of this as television, streaming television, cut the cord, satellite. It's just going to be entertainment. However you get it, you'll get it. But in any event, what's your thoughts on how 2019 seems to be kicking off? Like I've said earlier in the show, we're kind of complaining a little bit about the direction boxing was heading towards the close of 2018, and I think it was more dissatisfaction over the fights we did not get to see or the fights that we want to see. But, over the last couple of weeks we've been off, I had a chance to basically think about the great fights we saw in 2018, and it started in January of 2018, and we saw some good fights. I mean, just in the heavyweight division alone, we saw AJ fight and unify the heavyweight title with Joseph Parker and Povetkin, 2 big fights for him. Deontay Wilder, his 2 best fights against the best opposition in Ortiz and Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury himself coming back from being, losing over 100 pounds and fighting a couple of stiffs and then jumping right into Deontay Wilder and giving us that. What's your thoughts on how what we should expect for 2019?
Well, I tell you, when you look at the heavyweight division, I can't remember a year that was this exciting recently. That's for sure. I don't know. I like I say, like I've said many times, I grew up in the Tyson era, so it was heavyweights that brought me to this sport. The thing that I just am like a kid in a candy store or a kid in a candy comic book shop now with these heavyweight champions is that, unlike Mike Tyson, all 3 of these guys, we have seen them get nailed, see the black lights, and then come back in fights. That's something Mike Tyson never did. That adds this, this level of credibility to each one of them that, for me at least, is just, that's big because especially that's a level of character that a heavyweight champion shows that, some of the greatest never did. Some of the people that we think of as, the best of the sport, Mike Tyson never showed that.
What do you mean by that? Explain that, because I thought that he did. I mean, he was our guy. He was your guy too.
If you ever hurt Mike Tyson, you finished him.
But that was only at the end when he could get hurt.
Right, but that's just it. So we never saw. I mean, I don't know that. So it's sort of like a negative because all he did was steamroll guys, and that he was always a front runner. He was never the kind of guy. The closest he ever came to coming back to win a fight was against Francois Botha, where he lost 5 rounds and then put him to sleep with one right hand. We never saw Mike Tyson have to get it together and rally. If you beat him, if you started beating him, you would beat him.
But that didn't come for years, and that seems to be the case with a lot of fighters. You know, once they become vulnerable, you know, the thing with Mike Tyson was his persona scared a lot of his opponents, and then once Buster Douglas beat him, that sense of fear left, and you're right, but he was also an aging fighter at that point. And the same thing will happen to any fighter today. It's hard, like just take Manny Pacquiao. You know, we're looking at Manny Pacquiao fighting January 19th against Adrian Broner in what I think is an extremely tough fight for him, regardless of, you know, what we think of Adrian Broner at this stage. But the same thing. You know, Manny Pacquiao was considered unbeatable for years, and then all of a sudden he lost a couple of fights. Now he's struggling to you know, regain some of what he had, which he never will. And that's the way I look at it with Tyson. Yeah, he steamrolled guys because no one was being competitive with him until the Buster Douglas fight, and then a lot of other things took place with him. You know, I'm always going to stick up for my man Iron Mike. I mean, come on.
I know you sure do.
I know. I get, and don't, you can't call me biased.
No, I think that's just my point, is that, you know, there's a lot of things you got to show to be great. One of the things Mike Tyson never showed to be great was coming back, losing a few rounds and then coming back. Now, whether that's because he was so great, so much better than everybody for a while, and then it wasn't until he faded that guys had the chance to, you know, sort of win rounds with him.
Alex, you know how hard... Come on, answer this. You know how hard it is to try to put that mouthpiece back in when you don't have any senses?
Especially back.
I know.
But no, I hear you about... I am very excited... I guess I'm one of the few, because I looked at the seating chart map for the Broner-Pacquiao pay-per-view on Friday, and not a single seat has been sold yet. So I still got time to find good seats for that. But I am looking forward to that fight in the sense that I really think it's a fight that doesn't need to happen, but I'm curious as to see what Pacquiao has left.
Are you serious? Are you serious about the seating chart?
Yeah, it's completely empty. Nobody's bought a ticket yet. But I mean, it is.
How can that be? How can that be? The fight's a couple weeks away.
Yeah, we're still more than 2 weeks out. So maybe, you know, I'll let you know next week if any have been bought.
That fight's in Vegas, right?
I forget where it is. Probably that's where Pacquiao usually fights. I don't know. But I think that's. The thing that's interesting about that fight is that Manny Pacquiao is a guy who's been through so many wars that at some point it's very possible he walks up the steps to the ring and has nothing. And boy, wouldn't it be sad to see him lose to Adrian Broner. But I don't think this is a walkover fight. Yes, Pacquiao has so much more skill than Broner. And just in terms of punch output alone, he should box the hell out of Adrian Broner, because even when Broner was at his best, he just didn't throw enough punches.
Well, not when he was in the lower weights, when he was a lightweight, and even a junior welterweight at you know, for most of that time, his punch output was a lot. I mean, you know, I thought he was going to be one of the best. You know, he just got wrapped up with the wrong people and started thinking that he was better than he was. He was his worst enemy, really.
Right, but I think that's the thing. The thing about him that I think is going to be dangerous, that we already saw is dangerous for Manny Pacquiao at this stage, at the Manny Pacquiao that we have in front of us now, is he's just big and strong. Jeff Horn, those were his main abilities, and he made it a very physical fight. I don't know if Broner has that ability to sort of make it a clutching, grabbing, sort of mugging sort of fight, but I do think Broner, if he's able to sort of withstand the Pacquiao flurries, he does have the power to, make Manny think about coming in recklessly. So I don't know. I just think, it does make me think of Sugar Ray Leonard versus Hector Camacho, but Adrian Broner is no Hector Camacho.
The interesting thing about this fight is that if Manny Pacquiao does truly fight with knockout on his mind, and he can muster up some of that hand speed and footwork where he was just coming at you from all these different crazy angles, he is going to punch the snot out of Adrian Broner, because Adrian Broner will go into that defense and wait and wait and wait, and before he knows it, 12 rounds are going to go by. Yeah. The ability to stop Adrian Broner, like Manny is saying, would require him to stay in one spot a little longer than I think he should. It's going to be an interesting fight. A couple other ones real quick. Time is already gone here. Demetrius Andrade is fighting Artur Akhuvov on the same day, the 18th, on your new favorite network, DAZN. Demetrius recently said that he's going to clean up the middleweight division. I've always liked Demetrius. I was glad that he got rid of the two co-promoters that were fleecing him all these years, and I think that he missed out on a lot of financial opportunities and also just generalized stardom opportunities. He's a quality fighter that's aging, did not have enough fights, in my opinion, and some of his statements are stating that he's going to show everyone he's the best middleweight in the world. And yet he's taken on Artur Akhuvov, who's virtually an unknown character. It is a ranked fighter in the WBO rankings, and that's the belt he owns. But when I look at Demetrius, and no disrespect to him, I can't see him competing against a Triple G or a Danny Jacobs or even a Canelo Alvarez, whichever weight class he decides to fight in. What's your thoughts?
I think he competes with those guys. Yeah, he doesn't have the most fan-friendly style, that's for sure. He's mistaken me for Dan Rafael on 2 occasions, but a lot of people do that because we're both fat white guys with goatees who hang around boxing. But I do think he certainly can compete with those guys. I don't know. I think he's a tough one because I think he's not all that thrilling to watch, although I think his last fight he looked better than he's looked in a long time. And I do think that, because his last fight he dropped that guy multiple times. I can't remember. I'm completely blanking now on who his last fight was, but I do remember him dropping him several times, but then having a hard time finishing him. I do think that he belongs in that upper echelon of the division, but I do think that because of his style, and unfortunately some things that have nothing to do with him really, just sort of the way the promotional powers that be work, he does seem to have a hard time getting bigger fights. So I'm not sure we'll see him in that group, the Canelos, the Jacobs, the Golovkins, but I know he wants to be up there, and I think that he could certainly do well with them. I think he'd pose problems for all of them because of his boxing style. He's very good at defensively and keeping guys. He's very good at distance. So I think that's any guys who are good at distance can sometimes be a little kind of take the air out of the room because if they're staying at a safe distance, the fight becomes a little there's a lot less contact when that happens. But I don't know. I do think he's one of the best in the division. And because he's a regional guy, I would like to see him do well. But no, he thinks of Dan Rafael,
and that's why I've asked you, because I know you're partial to local guys. Listen, we gotta let you go, but real quick, you're talking about him maintaining his distance. Well, this guy has maintained his distance from the ring altogether. Keith Thurman steps back into the ring, and he's picking one of my favorite fighters in Josito Lopez to make his triumphant return. Josito Lopez should be fighting 2 or 3 weight classes below which he will fight, but love this guy. What's your thoughts on Keith Thurman real quick? I mean, I think he's let time pass him by. I don't see him, regardless of what belt he still has. He still holds the WBA belt. I don't see him as a major player in the welterweight division right now until he gets a substantial win under his belt. And I'm not so sure a win over Josito Lopez will do that, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you, and I think that it's unfortunate because with the layoff, it does seem that that's entirely self-inflicted. Boxers have a really small window of when, or for the most part, they have small windows of when they can be great. And the idea of just staying out of the ring while you're in your prime, it doesn't make sense to me. And I think, a comeback fight against Josecito Lopez, if there is someone, even though he is sort of fighting heavier than he's used to, if there is somebody who could sort of test to see if you are serious about this sport, I think he's a good guy to do it. But no, I think Thurman is, a big, strong welterweight. So I think he'll beat Josecito. But I do think that, it'll be interesting to see what Thurman shows up.
But what's he going to show us when Josito Lopez is the kind of guy that's going to be right there for him? So we're not going to see if he's got any rust in terms of his movement. We're not going to see any super boxing skill from Thurman. We're going to see a guy in Josito Lopez that's going to be right in front of him with the same attitude he always has, kill or be killed. And then Thurman's size and power advantage is going to take over, and I see that fight ending somewhere around the 6th or 7th round.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's likely what would happen, but along the way, Thurman will get popped a few times, and we'll see how he handles that. But you're right. It does look like one of those, sort of safety-first PBC type matchups, that you do at least have 2 names, but one guy's sort of out of his league. Although the layoff, I shouldn't say that because the layoffs, you never know what a guy's going to look like after a big, long layoff like that. So it could be interesting, but you're right. I think it's definitely a safe fight for Thurman. I don't know. I think one of the other things that is very exciting is Oleksandr Usyk, who I think is the fighter of the year. He's talking about moving up to heavyweight and going right into a fight with like a Povetkin. Which I think that'd be awesome. I don't know. The heavyweights are what really have me excited, and the idea that Usyk might be a part of that mix too is fascinating to me. I mean, he's going to have to do some. He's going to have to go talk to David because he's going to have to do some giant killing. But,
I think he should talk to Michael Spinks and realize, and learn from Mike that, you might be able to get a win or 2 out of here, but these guys are bigger and stronger. Maybe you should stay right where the hell you are, my man.
Well, I love that, Billy C. You have to love that, too, the guts to want to go up there and do that. That's what we like. Wait
a minute. Let's be real.
We like the guys who want to put their head in the crocodile's mouth.
I got you, except I think it's more for the do-re-mi, to be honest with you, because he can make a hell of a lot more money than he can, especially in the U.S. But Alex, great listening to you and watching you. Finally, be able to hear us, and we'll be waiting for you next week, my man.
Hey, and also I did want to say I did notice. I think it's good news that I think Adonis Stevenson's girlfriend mentioned over the holidays that he is speaking. They sewed up the tracheotomy. So hopefully things are improving for Adonis Stevenson.
Yeah, well, we all know one thing: we'll never see him in the ring again. So, but hopefully he'll be able to live a normal life. So, Alex, we'll be looking forward to you next week, brother.
All right, Billy C. Take care.
That's Alex Papali, and you can catch him next week. And speaking of Alex Papali, I wanted to make sure I let everybody know that all the blasts. And it's one of our favorite segments on the show here. One of your favorite segments on the show was the blast from the past, and the blasts are the ones at least. It's my bad because a lot of the blasts from the past that we've done were embedded in the shows themselves. So, and because of the nature of the shows, good old Billy C never really put some of the stuff on the title. So I have all of these years worth of shows and nothing. I don't know which blast is on, et cetera, et cetera. But there were a lot of them, especially from several years ago, that we did know what was on them, and we were able to pull them out. And that will all the blast we're going to showcase on the new television channel, where there'll be, I think there's one day a week where we'll have 8 or 10 episodes back to back of the blast, and they're really really fun to watch. So I think that you should definitely check those out. Joining us again from a place that's a hell of a lot warmer than I am right now is Sal Rocky Senecola. I'm impressed that you connected in the first shot here. I mean, I almost thought that maybe you and Alex were at the same place because I was getting the same stuff with him. But
well, let me tell you, I'm a notch below Alex when it comes to technology and computers and Skype and all this stuff or anything. Just forget about it. I'm out of there. But hey, just so you know that I listened to the entire show, let me tell you, if I could recap a few comments and a few things that you had during those segments with Dax and Alex, which were excellent, by the way. There were some big fighters that didn't worry so much as they do today to protect their O, as Michael Buffer would say, and put it on the line and fought the best and had their very first defeat and came back to have a stellar career. They were already in the middle of a stellar career. And I'm not going to say this in chronological order, but hey, remember Roberto Duran? He had his first loss to Esteban de Jesus. And he came back, and I think he stopped him the next 2 times. But Roberto Duran had his first loss. And, of course, Sugar Ray Leonard had his first loss to Roberto Duran. And we all know what kind of comeback he came back with and what he did for a stellar career at signature level as well. And then, of course, one of my good friends, Bobby Ches. Bobby Ches had his first defeat, and I watched it on TV, and I couldn't believe that what I saw in front of me when he had his first defeat against Mustafa Hamsho. And he was undefeated. He was the matinee idol. And bam, you saw just Bobby crumble in that fight. But, man, let me tell you something. That turned his whole psyche around, his ability and his desire in his heart. And, man, Bobby Ches had a stellar career after that. So there are a lot of fighters that had defeats for the first time, and they improved and came back with a windfall.
Well, it's an education process, and that's what fighters are being deprived. And I'm going to use that word. They're being deprived of that opportunity today, Sal. And you left out one of the most famous all-time great, and talk about achievement, guy that's in the Hall of Fame now, was a guy that held multiple titles in multiple divisions simultaneously, which when there was only 8 divisions, something that will never be repeated today. The late great Henry Armstrong.
Armstrong, the Hurricane.
He started Hammer and Hank. He started. I think he lost the 2 of his first 3 fights, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, this is as he turns pro. So there's many fighters that lost and came back and used those losses as an educational process, and that's something that fighters of today are actually being deprived of because they are being overprotected. They are not getting a chance to develop. I've said this for years now. And by the way, it is our 15th year doing this show, so we're excited about that. I can't believe I've been involved in the sport of boxing for 35 years. But the truth of the matter is that I've said it a million times, Sal. if your level of opposition doesn't get better as you progress with your career, and I don't care if you're in the amateurs or in the pros, you're not going to get better. I use the analogy of a football team playing the worst team every single week for 16 weeks and go undefeated. Are they really the best? Do they get better? I don't think so. You were a former world ranked contender. You know what it's like. I mean, didn't you learn something from those tougher fights as you were climbing the ladder? I mean, aren't they instrumental in a fighter's growth as they proceed with their career?
Not only are they instrumental, but let me tell you something. They are so. It's incredibly evident once you go through a war, a changing fight, kind of a thing. It's testing yourself. It's testing your mettle, your courage, your ability, your conditioning. It's everything. And when you pull yourself up and go on and learn from a fight, and a lot of these fights and a lot of these fighters do that along the amateur path. I mean, the first time I was in a ring with a whirlwind boxer, I mean, I was just a puncher and a slugger, and boom. Then I learned, hey, man, maybe I got to learn how to counter this. The first time I was in a ring with a taller opponent, which was 99% of the time, you learn how to cut off the ring. You learn how to throw feints to the head, bang to the body, and you learn these things along the path. The first time you fight a southpaw, you keep your left foot on the outside of his right foot. And, you learn these things, but it's experience. And that's what I think you're alluding to, that a lot of these guys that are so protected, they do not have that opportunity as the earlier fighters did to get that exposure where they're going to have some challenge and they're going to be challenging themselves. They're going to have to learn. They're going to have to evolve. They're going to have to go to school with their trainer the old-fashioned way and get critique and learn and take the time, the tutelage, and become a better fighter. That's the whole thing. You're looking to always strive to survive and grow and learn to become a complete, all-around great fighter.
No, I couldn't have said it as well as you. Hey, listen, I'm going to read an email right now, but first, I want to give stuff away. The Title Bout Championship computer game is, we appreciate being part of that game, and I want to give a copy away. It's a great game. It's the same simulcast type game that Alex uses for the Blast of the Past. And I want to give a copy away. So here's what you got to do. You got to go up to our new television network, and you can get to it. It's Ginico USA. Ginico has other networks in other countries, but if you just go to Ginico, GINIKO USA.com, and sign up, you can see how you can sign up. I know it's on Roku and Hulu and I don't know, all the other Hawaiian-sounding networks that you can get to. Because, I know Sal is all up to speed on this, and I'm not so much. Ooh. But Hulu, is that like a grass skirt? Is Hulu like a grass skirt? But I will give you a free copy if you're the first one to email me, Billy at TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing, and tell me what you thought of one of the Boxing Revisiteds that are airing on that channel today. Now, they are scattered around, so it'll give you an opportunity to watch. And I need you to let me know what you think of it. This was a series Sal and I worked on, and we're trying to plan to do another one in the near future. Let me know what you think. Tell me specifically what you thought and which fight it was. And I'm going to randomly pick out the best email and give you your very own copy. So do that right now. And then email me, Billy at TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. It's an easy one, man. Just do something. This email is from my man Johnston. He says, hey, Billy C., Happy New Year to all of you guys. He says, I've been watching your show on the brand new channel, and I'm loving it. He says, specifically the Billy C. Revisited. He says, I've watched that classic middleweight matchup between Sugar Ray Robinson and Gene Fulmer. How many rabbit punches from Fulmer? Sal and I, when we did that, We were like, oh my God, but and he says that in that peekaboo defensive stance was definitely different, but leading with the head was ridiculous. Then he says, I watched, and I tell you the truth, Sal and I watched this one, and we've talked about it since then. This was probably one of the most brutal fights I've ever watched. And,
it was.
And Sal and I had known of the fight, but when we filmed this, neither one of us had watched this fight in its entirety.
Never.
And if you watch it on the new channel, you can hear it in our voices. First of all, I will apologize in advance. We watch these and call these fights as if they were happening live. So I had never seen the video that we watched, and there was a lot of stuff going on, and Sal and I were just waiting for the action. I mean, there was like 6 minutes of pre-fight stuff that we had no idea what it was. We're trying to get. I'm going. Oh, it was a big monster guy. He's going. That's Chuck Connors. I'm going. That's not Chuck Connors. So it's very entertaining. So check it out. But he says he watched the Fulmer and Benny Kid Paret. He says, and wow, what an unbelievable fight. I love the head blocking style. This fight was brutal, and how these guys it forever changed both their careers. As a matter of fact, Fulmer never went on to look that good again. He only fought a couple of times after that, and Benny Kid Paret actually fought again 3 weeks later and then was killed in the ring. And this fight, one of the things we discussed in the post-fight discussion was that if this fight had taken place today, I'm not so sure that it would have continued because one of the fighters, I'm not even going to tell you if you don't know, but one of the fighters was down a few times. I think it would have been waved off. But the other thing is, it may have saved, if this fight did take place today, it may have saved Paret's life because they would have put both of these fighters on a suspension, Sal. That's the rule today after a fight like that. And it could have saved this guy's life because, he clearly took some shots that his body should have rested for probably 9. I bet you if it was in New York, they would have put him on a 90-day suspension. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, with observation. I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah. He says, anyway, excellent work, guys. I enjoyed those 2 fights and look forward to watching more. It's a brilliant format. The dogs, bullocks, as we say over here in England. What other fights have you done? We've done a couple of Sugar Rays. We've done an Ali fight, a great fight with Mathis. We also have a Sonny Liston fight. We have a couple of other ones that are on tap. So I think I'm leaving one out too, Sal. But anyway, he says one more thing. His fighter of the year was Usyk. The fight of the year was the Battle of the Miguels, Burchelt and Roman. He says, I'm with Dax as the World Boxing Super Series as the event of the year. And he said, he means all of them. And he says, promoter of the year, Eddie Hearn. He says, I'm done with my, he said all his rest of his domestic awards are up on an article on the website. So I appreciate the email. But it was certainly a lot of fun, Sal, doing those revisiteds.
It was. I mean, it was so exciting. And as you were talking right now, there's so much that just came to mind of so many other fights I would love to have the opportunity to do with you and revisit those. I mean, even the Sugar Ray Leonard first Roberto Duran fight, or something even earlier. We can go back. I would love to see some Henry Armstrong old 8mm reels if we could look at that and see if there's any fights there. I'd love to see. There's a plethora of fights. I mean, there's so many classic fights that we could revisit.
I know,
and that's the whole thing.
But you're forgetting one small detail. We don't have the rights to rebroadcast.
That's the right to fight. The rights to the fight. I forgot about that.
Yeah, well,
thanks for reminding me, man.
Well, I mean, I would love to do.
Let me see what else I could pull out.
Yeah, I know. I could. There's a lot of them I would love to do, but unfortunately, we only have the rights to do a certain amount, and we do. We still have the rights to do some of them. And we have some really good ones on tap. The Roberto Duran one, a Carlos Monzon one, more Sugar Ray Robinson fights. We will be doing that in the near future. So you guys keep your eyes peeled for that. As far as fights this year, Sal, there are some good ones coming up, and hopefully it'll continue with us getting some great fights. I'm focusing on this Pacquiao-Broner fight. I just, it's a huge risk for Pacquiao. And, a lot of us have written off Adrian Broner, but he's still a talented guy. He's still extremely young. So I'm really looking forward to see which version of Manny Pacquiao we get. Because if he wins this fight, obviously he's going to continue forward. If he loses this fight, Sal, I would think it's time for Pacquiao to hang him up. I mean, what do you think?
Well, you know my thoughts, Bill. Hey, who am I to talk about comebacks and retiring? I mean, when you have been to the mountain and back several times, as Pacquiao has, we're never going to see another Pacquiao in his prime. He's had his prime. We're going to see a Pacquiao that's able to muster up a victory here and there and do things. But, to remember back where Pacquiao was when he was fighting in his prime, at the weights, I think his body was more tailored to accommodate and to perform at its peak. I think he's fighting over his weight now, and I think that's what's happening. He's getting in the ring with some of these bigger guys that just physically he's not the same fighter. And he's got nothing really to prove. I said it years ago. The only fight he should have came back for was the initial Floyd Mayweather fight, the rematch. That's it. That was the only incentive. That was the only thing he could have ever wanted a signature comeback to prove and to do. And that never happened, and it never will. And and if it does, it's a shame on people that are going to try to bring these old guys back to do what they should have done again 5 years earlier. So I don't know. I wish Manny the best. I hope he doesn't get hurt. I don't see this fight really being of interest, number one, to the majority. I'm not really that concerned or so, but I will look in on it. You know that. But what's the real significance of this fight? And what is it going to do if Pacquiao wins? We know what's going to do if he loses, but where is he going to go to from here? He's already had it, is what I'm saying. So I wish Manny the best. I hope he gets through this fight physically and mentally, emotionally in good shape. But don't be surprised that Broner's not going to hurt him and not going to end his career.
Well, Adrian Broner, I mean, he's got talent. He's got talent. He's not a likable guy anymore at all. And I'm with you. I think there's a big risk for Manny Pacquiao, and I continue to ask myself why he still does it. But we'll see on January 19th. The day before, Bryant Jennings taking on Oscar Rivas. I like that fight. Oscar Rivas is a young fighter coming up, tough guy. Bryant Jennings has been there. Doesn't seem to be the same fighter after being annihilated by Luis Ortiz. But we'll see. That's going to be taking place on that Friday. Demetrius Andrade is coming back. So in a couple of weeks, we've got a busy schedule that takes us through the rest of the month. And we'll be talking about that. And another thing that you and I talked about, Sal, and I just might as well let the cat out of the bag. Over the last 15 years of doing this show, and we started really just as something, the great Jeremy C. Talked me into it. We owned a gym in Poughkeepsie, New York, and we started it just as a means to get people into the gym, just as a selling point, and we ended up on a podcast network at the time, and it's grown to what we have today. But during that time, a lot of the focus for the first decade of the show was interviews, and I have had a lot of great interviews with all-time great fighters: Sugar Ray Leonard, Ernie Shavers, Ray Mercer. Even not how many people call him an all-time great, but the late Tommy Morrison, the late Billy Costello. I mean, all these interviews. And then we also had a bunch of interviews with fighters that you know of that are still active today in the beginning of their career, like multiple division world champion Danny Garcia, I believe he was 7-0 when we had him on the first time. Tyson Fury, when he was not even a top 10 contender. Andre Berto on his way up. And that list goes on and on. We've also had a bunch of celebrities that have been on this show, like Tony Danza and the guy from the part, Tony, what is his name? Danny Bonaducci.
Danny Bonaducci.
And even Snooki was on the show once, and we had some porn star on the show one time who was it's true. She was some kind of porn star that was at a boxing event and was a big boxing fan. So, every one of these people we had on had a connection to the sport, of course. Anyway, the moral of my long-winded story here is we have a lot of those interviews as audio. And one of the things that we're going to be doing in the near future and then putting it up on the television station is Sal and I and Dax and Alex will all be on the show together. And then we'll play one of these interviews and dissect it, where that fighter, what their mindset was like at that time when we did the interview. How did it work out? Did they achieve what they were saying they were going to do? Where are they today? What has happened to them, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's going to be pretty fun to revisit some of those interviews, Sal, and I know you're pretty excited about it as well.
I am. I'll tell you what, that would be stellar, and I definitely would love to do that with you and see exactly where they were after that interview, how they evolved or devolved. Is that a word?
I don't know, but I understood what you meant. And it's funny you're saying that word. And I've been watching a lot of Slip Mahoney lately, and let me tell you, I tell you what, he's got nothing on you, Sal. He's got nothing on you.
Yeah. Hey, I made up a word. I want to see this word go into the dictionary. I may have said this. I said this word 30 years ago. I was giving driving directions to a friend of mine to get to a party. He was a doctor, and I said, you got to come around this road here. You got to kind of you got to kind of perpendiculate. And he's like, what? He said, Sal, you know what? You don't have to say anything else because I know exactly what you mean. I said, yeah, it's kind of around the corner. You look over there. You got to kind of perpendiculate yourself. And he's like, okay, Slip, we'll do that.
That's clearly a Slip Mahoney word for sure. But anyway, well, listen, boys and girls, time flies.
If Webster wants to know what that means, I'll tell him.
Time flies when you're having fun. It's great to be back. We all needed a little recharge, and we're looking forward to moving along for 2019. We're going to, as promised, every year we've been around, we've gotten better and better and better. And 2019 will be no different. So make sure you continue to tune in. So with that said, all I could say is this. Make sure you tune in next time. Same bat channel. Oh, wait a minute. See, I guess it's been a long time. Take two. Let's do it over. Okay. Make sure you tune in next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.